issues shimmering over the summer may lead to the war in the autumn. Several issues could trigger a brief, sharp war inside the U.S., in the Middle East, and possibly even in Japan this summer. Multiple sources agree. The key issues remain the 11th September, a mass murder event that remains unpunished and officially unacknowledged to this day. The 11th September war crime was used as an excuse for the mass murder of Iraqi, Syrian, Afghan, and other peoples. Furthermore, if you dig deeper, it ties into the Kennedy assassinations of 1960, the murder of Martin Luther King, as well as the December 26, 2004, and March 11, 2011 human-induced tsunami mass murder attacks, among many other crimes against humanity. It's interesting to note, by the way, that 350 or so corrupt publications that last week continuously put out editorials calling for freedom of press have not dared to write the truth about any of these crimes against humanity. That's because they are mostly owned by the people who carry out these crimes, the Khazarian Mafia. When is the New York Times and the rest of the corrupt propaganda media going to write that it was the Zionist neocons who planned and carried out the 11th September attacks? When are they going to write about what was in all the Kennedy assassination documents that were recently released? Why don't they write that it was Israeli Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion, working under orders of his Khazarian Rothschild master, etc., who ordered the Kennedy assassinations? Why don't they report the truth like they are supposed to do? The complicity in crimes against humanity by these media outlets, controlled by 6 Khazarian conglomerates, means that they are enemies of the people and need to be occupied by military powers and forces to write the truth. The truth, as readers of this newspaper know, is that the Khazarian faction of the Western establishment carry out this and the countless other war crimes to remain in power of the world's financial system, and thus true world power. As a member of the British royal family once told me, they are not going to go quietly into the night. In other words, it's going to take all-out war to remove these criminals. A lot of people think U.S. President Donald Trump is going to be the man to end Khazarian brew and tell people the truth. While so far, since being elected, he has not said anything about the 11th September, Fukushima, or other war crimes. You can also confirm through open sources news articles that, as a businessman, he was bailed out by Rothschild each time he went bankrupt. Of course, Trump would never have been allowed to run for president if he was not controlled through the usual combination of bribery and blackmail. However, even then Trump was scripted to lose the election, it was patriots in the military and the ABC agency who decided he was the lesser of the two evils and used special forces to break into the computer center, like the one under Denver Airport, that were being used to steal the election for Hillary Clinton Rockefeller. Also, thanks to the military backers of the Trump regime, enough U.S. officials involved in crimes against humanity have now been removed from power for the next phase of the revolution to begin, Pentagon sources say. The source say that, starting this autumn, the close to 500 civil indictments in the U.S. will finally be acted upon, and among the first to be unsealed may be former CIA Director John Brennan, Pentagon sources say. In fact, the sources say they are getting unsealed after August 7 primaries, and Hillary Clinton and John Podesta may have been murdered. In other words, they may have already been transferred to the U.S. military prison in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. The fact that 60 former intelligence officials have protested the removal of Brennan's security clearance is a good sign they know they will join their former masters in prison if things continue as they are. Trump revoked Brennan's security clearance, and he may do so the same to his deep state supporters, Pentagon sources say. The removal of security clearance is a preliminary to arrest, and other sources add. Also, in a blunt threat to troll the cable, Trump increased the budget for the Planet military parade from $12 million to $92 million, or by 66%, and by canceling it, he may use this for military tribunals, the Pentagon sources say. The source also say the defeated cable may have pressures the Pope to oppose the death penalty as a Hail Mary, but this won't save them from the gallows, suicides, or extrajudicial actions. Also, the source say the guns of August have been fired when the cable's Indonesian underwater base was nuked in 7 Point Quake north of Lombok. The seismographs of this August 9 earthquake, among with ones from August 16 in Alaska and near Tokyo, bear hallmark signs of sudden explosion with no gradual buildup of artificial quakes. In fact, Pentagon sources confirm the cable underground base in northern Alaska was destroyed with a 6.4 magnitude quake on August 12. Furthermore, the source stated, the submarine that tried to nuke Trump's Air Force One jet while flying to Singapore in June and his home on Ketron Island was destroyed on August 10 by an F-15s and a plane stolen from Seattle Airport. These moves by the U.S. military are certain to trigger cable counter moves. In this context, it's interesting to note that German Chancellor Angela Merkel, French slave President Emmanuel Macron, and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau may have had a secret meeting in early August. Both Merkel and Macron were no-shows of expected appearance then, and Trudeau was detained by the U.S. military for plotting to work Trump in Ohio, Pentagon sources claim. Other U.S. intelligence sources also say Trudeau's plane was intercepted by U.S. fighters and forced to land. However, Trudeau's press office refused to either confirm or deny this, and Trudeau later appeared in the public, so he may have been detained and then released as part of the ongoing power struggle at the top of the Western establishment. Senior sources in the Canadian Secret Intelligence Service admit they have been cut off from communication with their counterparts in the U.S., and the U.S. government appears to be dysfunctional. However, they say communication with the Anglo-Saxon Five Eyes intelligence gathering system continues to work well. They also confirm there is an undeclared civil war in the Western establishment. This was visible in the recent spat between Canada and Saudi Arabia. This spat was supposedly caused by Saudi reaction to a Canadian embassy tweet condemning the arrest of Saudi female activists. However, the fact that the U.S. refused to take Canada's side in this dispute shows this fight is really about oil and not human rights. The Canadians have been promoting their oil and other energy exports to the U.S. and Asia as a friendly, reliable alternative to radical fundamentalist Saudi Arabia. Since the U.S. oil oligarchs make much of their money by pumping oil in Saudi Arabia and other Gulf states for about $1 a barrel and then selling it off for over $50 a barrel, the last thing they want is for that lines to print money to be taken over by Canadian oil companies that are not controlled by them. For example, the Rockefeller Brothers Fund is funding protesters against the construction of Canadian pipelines meant for exporting oil to the U.S. and Asia, Canadian government officials confirm. Thus, there is a real fight going on between the Canadian and U.S. oligarchs on the oil front. This may be why efforts are being made to implicate Trudeau in the ongoing arrest and exposure of pedophiles. In this context, it's interesting to note that a close childhood friend of Trudeau's was arrested on pedophilia charges recently. Also, Trudeau has not helped his case by participating in public demonstrations in support of sodomy. As his father famously put it, government has no place in the bedrooms of the nation. Sodomy is something that should be decided in bedrooms and in private, but certainly is not something a sitting prime minister should be actively promoting. As the ongoing arrest and exposure of high-profile pedophiles continue, we should find out soon if Trudeau is among the many Western leaders who have been compromised and blackmailed through sexual crimes. On this front, the campaign to end sexual exploitation of children is unfolding quickly. The U.S. Justice Department has announced the arrest of thousands of pedophiles. Also, the Catholic Church has removed thousands of pedophile priests worldwide, most recently in Pennsylvania and Chile. Furthermore, the arrest of thousands of lower-level pedophiles in the U.S. has now begun to snare big names, especially in Hollywood. Here's the latest from Pentagon sources on the subject. Hollywood was shaken to its core as CBS tightened Les Mouvins may soon be fired for being a sex predator. Also, more pedo revelation may take down Hollywood big shots like Steven Spielberg, David Geffen, Oprah Winfrey, and Tom Hanks, they say. Removing criminals from the Western establishment is a part of the battle for a new financial system that will heat up this autumn.